for goodness sake, Frasier, I'm a happily married man. Maris means the world to me. Why, just the other day, I kissed her for no reason whatsoever.
There are sitcoms that feel like comfort food. And then there's Frasier. Comfort food served on a plate that costs more than your rent, paired with a glass of sherry, and judged quietly from across the room by a Jack Russell Terrier. This show made smart feel cozy. It turned a radio booth into a stage for chaos, made a coffee shop feel like a second home, and somehow convinced America that arguing about opera could be just as funny as slipping on a banana peel. But here's the part that always cracks me up. For a show that looks so polished, pristine apartment, perfect timing, elegant one-liners, Frasier was held together by weird little behind-the-scenes choices. Some were artistic rules that kept the comedy sharp. Some were casting accidents that changed the whole series. Some were tiny production cheats that turned into signature style. And some were just pure sitcom fate. So today, we're counting down 15 weird facts about Frasier that make the show even better on a rewatch. Because once you know what was happening behind that Seattle skyline, every "Goodnight Seattle" hits a little different. 15. The writers had one strict rule: no stupid jokes and no stupid people. One of the strangest weird facts about Frasier is that the show's comedy was built on a hard line in the sand. The creators weren't trying to make the loudest sitcom on TV. They were trying to make the smartest one that still felt warm. Their mantra was basically, don't write jokes that treat the audience like they're half asleep, and don't write characters who have to get dumb just to make a plot work. That's why even when Frasier is being ridiculous, overreacting, panicking, spiraling, he's still him. He's not suddenly clueless. Niles isn't randomly incompetent. Roz doesn't become a caricature. Even Martin, who plays the grounded guy in the room, isn't written as a brick wall. Everyone's sharp in their own way, which means the comedy comes from clashes, ego, timing, and misunderstandings. Not from somebody forgetting how to be a human for 22 minutes. It's a weird flex for a sitcom, but it's the secret sauce. And it even shaped how they handled something as basic as the theme song. 14. They chose to hide the theme song in the credits instead of blasting it up front. Most 90s sitcoms wanted you singing along before the first scene even started. Frasier did the opposite. The opening is famously quick. Seattle skyline line art. Title, done. Like the show is saying, we don't have time, we have farce to get to. And the bigger twist is that the actual theme song plays over the end credits. That wasn't just a random quirk, it was a deliberate choice. The creators even flirted with using an existing song at one point, but licensing was a headache, so they went with something original. Then the show's star got involved in the weirdest way possible. Kelsey Grammer basically pushed to sing it himself. That's why the ending feels like a little curtain call. The show wraps, the chaos settles, and then the blues kick in as we drift out of the episode. It makes the theme feel less like an intro jingle and more like the show's signature wink at the audience. Like Frasier himself is leaning into frame to say, yes, I know, I'm listening. And once you know that, the next weird fact makes even more sense. Because the song is secretly doing a job. 13. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs was designed to hint at psychiatry without sounding clinical. Here's what's wild. The theme song lyrics were written to evoke Frasier's world. Callers, confusion, emotional mess, without using any obvious therapy jargon. No patients, no sessions, no diagnoses. Just vibes. And the famous phrase, tossed salads and scrambled eggs, wasn't chosen because it sounded tasty. The idea was mixed up. People in chaos. Lives in disarray. That's basically every caller on KACL, and honestly, half the main cast whenever there's a dinner party involved. Even the line, "The blues are calling," is doing double duty. It's Frasier's radio job, calls coming in, but it's also the emotional tone, melancholy, longing, all the little heartbreaks that sneak into this show between the jokes. Then, Grammer adds the weird cherry on top. The little ad-libbed sign-offs, like he's improvising in a jazz club. That's how the theme became a miniature performance. Different flavors, same tune, like the show itself. So the theme song isn't just catchy. It's a mission statement. Cultured chaos, emotional mess, delivered with style. Which is perfect, because one of the biggest parts of that formula didn't even exist at first. 12. Frasier wasn't supposed to have a brother. Niles was born because of a photo. This one feels like sitcom mythology, but it's real. Frasier wasn't originally built around a brother dynamic. Then, someone involved with casting showed the producers a photo of David Hyde Pierce, and the resemblance to Kelsey Grammer was so strong, it basically created a character. Suddenly, the show didn't just have Frasier as the cultured snob in a new city. It had a mirror, a rival, a partner in crime, a man who could out-snob the snob. And that single decision unlocked the show's signature engine. Two tightly wound Crane brothers trying to live elegant lives while constantly humiliating themselves. It's hard to imagine Frasier without Niles now, because the whole tone shifts. You get the dueling therapy talk, the competitive insecurity, the sherry rituals, the shared childhood baggage, and, most importantly, the farce. So many of the show's greatest episodes only work because Niles exists. All because one photo made the producers go, wait, what if he has a brother? That's not just weird, that's TV destiny. And speaking of destiny, there's another casting story that sounds like an alternate timeline where Friends never happens. 11. Roz Doyle was almost played by Lisa Kudrow until she was replaced. Imagine early Frasier with Phoebe Buffay running the radio booth, because that almost happened. Lisa Kudrow was originally cast as Roz, and then she was replaced before she could actually film the pilot. The decision happened during early rehearsals. Painful, abrupt, and absolutely the kind of behind-the-scenes change you'd never guess from how smooth the final show feels. Perry Gilpin steps in, and suddenly Roz becomes one of the best reality anchors in sitcom history. Sharp, grounded, funny, and completely unimpressed by Frasier's melodrama. She can hang with the highbrow jokes, but she also cuts through them. And that balance matters, because without Roz, the show risks floating away into pure Crane family theater. The real weird twist is how it rippled out in pop culture. Kudrow's career still exploded soon after, and Gilpin became inseparable from the show's identity. So one behind-the-scenes swap ended up creating two very different sitcom legacies, which makes the next fact even funnier. The show hid a producer Easter egg in the radio station name. 10. KACL is basically an inside joke spelled in broadcast letters. KACL sounds like a plausible radio station, right? It rolls off the tongue. It feels Seattle. It looks good on a sign. But it's also a little signature stamped on the show, because those letters point back to the creators. It's the kind of nerdy detail only Frasier would bother with, hiding a production credit inside the fictional world, like a wink you'll only catch if you're the type of person who pauses the screen just to read a framed certificate on the wall. And honestly, that tiny Easter egg tells you a lot about the show's personality. Frasier loves hidden structure. It loves the joke behind the joke. It loves a small, elegant detail that rewards obsessive viewers, especially the ones who rewatch the series like it's a ritual. So every time you hear, "This is Dr. Frasier Crane, I'm listening," and see KACL behind him, you're also seeing the creators quietly signing their work. Now let's talk about the quietest signature in the entire show. That little Seattle skyline that lasts about 6 seconds. 9. The opening is tiny, but it has a surprising number of variations. The Frasier intro is famously short. It's basically black screen, white line drawing of Seattle. The title appears, cut to the episode. No big montage. No cast poses. No, everybody smile like you're having fun at brunch. But here's the weird part. Even though it's short, it's not always the same. The music cue changes, and the skyline sometimes gets tiny little tweaks, small variations that keep it from feeling mechanical. It's subtle, But once you notice, it becomes weirdly comforting, like a micro ritual before the story starts. And that fits the show perfectly. The intro isn't trying to hype you up. It's setting a mood. Cool, jazzy, a little upscale, like you're about to walk into a room where someone is dramatically offended by the wrong wine pairing. It's also a clever production move. The show can jump into the cold open fast, land a joke, and keep momentum. The intro doesn't interrupt the rhythm. It just taps you on the shoulder and says, "Welcome back." Which brings us to another signature rhythm move Frasier used constantly. Those black screen title cards that pop up like little chapter headings. 8. The show used intertitle cards like mini punchlines, and they became a signature. A lot of sitcoms transition between scenes with a quick exterior shot. Building, skyline, car driving, etc. Frasier often went for something more theatrical. A black screen with simple white text. Sometimes it's an act break vibe. Sometimes it's a joke. Sometimes it's a label that makes what you're about to see even funnier. And the weird magic is how flexible they are. The cards can feel classy, like a stage production, or they can feel like a silent film gag, or they can feel like the show is whispering to you, "Just wait, this next bit is going to escalate." It's such a simple device, but it becomes part of the show's voice. The timing of those cards matters. The phrasing matters. You can almost hear the writers grinning as they type them. And that design choice also helps the show feel bigger than a typical multicam sitcom. It leans into structure, like comedy in movements, setup, complication, catastrophe, cleanup, which is perfect for a series built around farce. Now, speaking of catastrophes, let's talk about the single ugliest object in a very expensive apartment, Martin's chair. 7. Martin's chair was designed to be hideous, and it wasn't even a real Barca-lounger. Martin's chair is basically a character. It's the physical embodiment of everything Frasier can't control. Taste, class, the fact that his father is going to live here now, and the reality that life is messy no matter how many art books you own. And yes, the chair was chosen with intention. The set team wanted something aggressively ugly. They went hunting for the worst possible vibe to clash with Frasier's designer world. Here's the especially weird detail. A lot of people assumed it was a Barca-lounger, but it wasn't actually one. It was close enough to be instantly recognizable as that big comfy recliner vibe, but technically not the brand, which is hilarious because even the chair has an identity crisis in this show. The chair becomes a recurring comedy engine. Frasier tries to move it, hide it, replace it, reupholster it, and it always survives. Because that's the point. It's not just furniture. It's a reminder that Frasier's apartment isn't a museum. It's a home now. A home with duct tape, a recliner, and a dog who stares into your soul. Which is perfect, because the next fact is about that dog, and it's way messier than you'd expect. 6. Eddie was played by two dogs, and they reportedly hated each other. Eddie is one of the greatest sitcom silent assassins ever. He barely does anything. He just looks. And somehow, that look lands harder than half the dialogue. The weird behind-the-scenes truth is that Eddie wasn't just one dog. The role was played by Moose, and later by Moose's son, Enzo. That part is already fun. But the truly sitcom-level twist is the behind-the-scenes lore that the two dogs reportedly couldn't stand each other. Apparently, they weren't the type to hang out and bond over treats. The story goes that they couldn't comfortably be on set together, which is hilarious because their entire job description is basically, be adorable, then stare at Frasier like he owes you money. And it makes Eddie even more impressive. Because while the Cranes are acting out these complicated farces, doors opening, misunderstandings, emotional monologues, Eddie is there delivering a perfectly timed reaction shot like he's a trained comedian. That's why Eddie works. He's not just the dog. He's a comedic partner, a pressure point, the silent judge in the room. And since we're on the topic of filming reality versus illusion, let's talk about where Frasier really lived. Spoiler, not Seattle. 5. Seattle was mostly a Hollywood illusion, filmed on a legendary soundstage. For a show that's so tied to the identity of Seattle, skyline, coffee culture, rainy vibes, Frasier was largely made in Los Angeles. The show's main sets were built on a major soundstage, which is part of why everything feels so controlled and theatrical. The apartment is designed like a performance space. Cafe Nervosa has that set elegance. The radio station is staged so the blocking feels clean and rhythmic. It's all built for timing. Doors, entrances, reaction shots, the whole dance. And weirdly, that controlled environment helps the show pull off its most chaotic farces. When everything is precisely built and lit, you can throw in physical comedy, overlapping dialogue, and escalating misunderstandings without the whole thing collapsing. So the Seattle lifestyle we remember is partly a set design miracle and partly a writing miracle. It's not that they needed a real city to make it feel real. They needed the perfect stage. And that makes the next fact stand out. There's one moment where the show steps off the stage and actually goes home. 4. Only one episode was filmed in Seattle, and it feels like the show breaking character. Despite being set in Seattle, Frasier almost never filmed there. There's one big exception. The episode built around Frasier's 1000th show milestone. Suddenly, you're seeing real Seattle landmarks and real outdoor energy that the series usually avoids. The Cranes aren't just in their controlled environments. They're out in the world, which makes them look even more like aliens trying to cosplay as normal people. It also subtly changes the vibe. The show usually feels like a stage play, contained spaces, carefully arranged chaos, dialogue that bounces like ping pong. On location, things feel wider, looser, more like the city is a character instead of just a skyline drawing in a rainy mood, and that's why fans remember it. It's not just a special episode, it's a rare peek behind the curtain. Like the show is acknowledging, yes, we've been borrowing this city's identity, so here it is, for real. Now, let's get to the awards insanity, because the Emmy story on Frasier is so ridiculous, it sounds fake. 3. The Emmy run was absurd. It didn't just win, it dominated. Frasier didn't just pick up a few awards and call it a day. It went on a run that basically turned the Emmys into a recurring gag. For years, it kept winning at a level that made other comedies feel like they were showing up just to clap politely. The show stacked trophies, nominations, and prestige like it was a sport. And the craziest part is that it wasn't a shiny new trend sitcom. It was a show about a radio psychiatrist, his elitist brother, their retired cop dad, and a dog who communicates entirely through judgment. But the formula was unstoppable. Tight writing, crisp performances, and episodes constructed like mini machines. The farce episodes are intricate. The emotional beats don't feel cheesy. And the jokes land whether you're laughing at the highbrow references or laughing at the fact that Frasier Crane is a dramatic disaster in a suit. So if you've ever wondered why Frasier still gets talked about like it's the smart sitcom benchmark, this is why. It wasn't just loved, it was crowned, over and over. And that award weirdness connects to an even stranger personal record, one that belongs to Kelsey Grammer and a character he played across multiple shows. 2. Kelsey Grammer pulled off something rare, award attention for the same character across multiple shows. Here's a trivia flex that almost doesn't sound possible. Kelsey Grammer's performance as Frasier Crane carried across multiple TV worlds. He didn't just play Frasier on Frasier. He played him on Cheers first, and even popped up as the character in another sitcom crossover. That matters because sitcoms usually don't treat crossovers like serious acting moments. They're fun little winks. But in this case, the character was so established, and Grammer's version of him so consistent, that it counted as one continuous iconic role across different shows. it's also part of what makes Frasier such a strange beast. Technically, yes, it's a spin-off, but it doesn't feel like a spin-off. It feels like a reinvention that somehow kept the DNA of the original character while giving him a totally new world. So when people say Frasier Crane is one of the biggest sitcom characters ever, it's not just because the show ran a long time. It's because the character basically became a franchise, without ever feeling like a gimmick. And now, for the number one weird fact. Because the reason Frasier is set in Seattle at all isn't just it sounded cool. It's way more specific than that. 1. The show was almost set in Denver. Then, a real-world controversy changed everything. Here's the wild butterfly effect moment. Early on, the show considered setting Frasier's new life in Denver. Then, Colorado became the center of a national firestorm over a highly controversial political amendment in the early 90s. The backlash was huge, and the creators didn't want their shiny new series tied to that moment or location. So they pivoted. They moved the setting to Seattle, a city that, at the time, carried a very different cultural vibe. Cooler, more modern, more new chapter, more coffee and rain sophistication that fit Frasier's attempt to reinvent himself. And once you realize that, Seattle stops feeling like a random choice. It becomes part of the show's identity. The skyline, the atmosphere, the idea of a city that matches Frasier's desire to be seen as refined but approachable. So when you hear Goodnight Seattle, it isn't just a sign-off. It's the result of a decision that shaped everything. The mood, the style, the cultural backdrop, and the entire flavor of the series. Conclusion. So yeah, Frasier looks like the most polished sitcom in the room. But underneath the expensive taste and perfect timing, it's full of weird little decisions that could have easily gone another way. A brother created by a photo, a role recast before filming, a theme song tucked into the credits like a jazz encore, and a city chosen because real life got complicated. That's part of why rewatches are so satisfying. The show is built like a machine, but it still feels human. It's elegant, and it's messy. It's highbrow. And it's basically a farce about people who can't stop sabotaging themselves. Drop a comment with your favorite Frasier episode, or tell me the moment that always makes you laugh, no matter how many times you've seen it. And if any of these facts surprised you, let me know which one hit the hardest.